It's like you want it. You're saying, John, sweetheart, please cut off the TV. And inside you're hoping, oh, don't cut off the TV. Because you want to teach. You want John to learn. And so, see, your whole way of dealing with John becomes very different, because now I'm not worried about fighting. I'm not in any battle with John because I control his world. And if you get really good at this, you just think about it. And some of you can go kind of high tech with some of this. You know, you can do it electronically by shutting down rooms in your house. You can, you know, they sell these great. You can buy outlets to put into your entertainment room, for example, or to John's bedroom. And you replace all the outlets, and you have a little infrared remote control you carry in your pocket. These things are out there, and they're not very expensive. So when John doesn't shut it down, you just simply go, you know? And it just is really cool, because, again, I don't have to battle John. I'm going to teach John with the consequences that come with John's choices. And then, see, all this whole issue around control suddenly disappears. Meaning, the battles that you have around control issues. If you're battling with, and it doesn't matter if your son or daughter is diagnosed with ADD or oppositional defiant, part of what they're there for is really to teach you, in many ways, that you can't get by with average parenting if you have an ADD or oppositional child. You'll jump out the window if you stay in that realm, but you have to elevate your parenting so you really get this. That John understands that in the world, he can push back, but there's always a consequence that comes with pushing back, which is not going to be me yelling and screaming at John. Does that make sense? I can't control John, but I can control his world. So I first step into the reality of that. Like, I don't control John. And by the way, John shouldn't listen to me. John is that, you know, there's no reason for John to listen unless I teach him that it's in his interest to listen to me. See, that's critical. John's got to understand it's in, sweetheart, it's going to be in your interest to really get these lessons. And so when he's 6, 8, 11, 12, and you have great control over John's environment, that's what prepares John when he's 16. He's over at his buddy's house. It's 9:55, and he calls and says, Mom, you know, I think I'm going to stay an extra hour late. I'll be home, you know, by midnight or so. And you're going, sweetheart, you have a choice. You can come home at midnight. And then you're going to find those car keys just aren't anywhere to be found, and your friends won't be coming anywhere near for a week or so. Or you can be home at 10, as we agreed upon, and probably you'll get to go out tomorrow night like you want to. See, if I've been teaching John that my words come with clear limits, and my action always follows that, John will be going, okay, got it. Now, it doesn't mean John will always choose what you want him to choose, but you can bet, just like the fleas in the jar, right, that once you take the lid off, that they tend to honor the consequence that was firm and clear. They will honor the consequences that you stick to as long as you're firm and clear. Does that make sense? It's really just a magical thing. A lot of your fear and worry about what's going to happen in those teenage years, you can just relax with that, because it's not nearly so challenging and scary when you understand that this is the way that John learns. And if John really gets these lessons, that your words come with clear consequences, with clear limits that you honor and follow through with those consequences, then you'll find John will usually follow through by honoring what you'd like for him to do. For these kids that are more oppositional, defiant, ADD kids, you know, all you really want to do is to take all that energy and funnel it in a direction where they're not fighting you, you know, but where they fight something that's worthy of fighting for, you know. If the coach says you're never going to be able to make the team because you're just too slow, you want your son to go, oh, I'm going to get faster. Or if they have a sense like, you know, nobody's found a cure for cancer. I could do that. There's a problem here. I can find that. You really want them to focus their energy in something that's really worthy and worth fighting for. And you'll find that if you can honor this thing where you control the consequences impeccably, kids really get that lesson. They start shifting their attention to something that's really worth fighting for. couple of years ago, I worked with a family, and with some of these boys in particular, I find, more often boys, that are diagnosed with ADD, they not only have a lot of energy, but they don't require a lot of sleep. You know, they can get by on 4 or 5 hours sleep, and they're like, you know, it's just amazing. And so I had this one family. This little boy, 6, 7, 8 years old, didn't require much sleep. He'd be up at 4:30 in the morning. They'd had trouble getting him to bed, you know, 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. And the family struggled so because they would end up, particularly mom in this particular case, because she's very reactive. So child would push, she would react, big drama unfolds, and that would happen over and over and over and over again. But eventually they got it so that they completely eliminated the drama and the resistance, and they really taught him that choices come with consequences. And so he did this wonderful thing. By the time he ended up 11 and a half, 12 years old, he started working on his sporting life. You know, devoted himself to soccer, and then eventually he ended up in football, and he became obsessed with it. Now, you might say he was a little over the top in terms of his obsession and the energy that he put into it, but he was very disciplined in school. He didn't fight with his parents. He didn't create difficulties there. He ended up, in fact, he just graduated last year, ended up focusing all of his energies in a way that really served him. And that's what you find that these kids can do, even the most difficult, challenging kids. But we don't get it by using a lot of words. We won't get it by lecturing. We will only get it by teaching John that consequences come with choices, and the more that I'm willing to control John's world when I can, because when he's 17 or 18, I don't have too many tools left, right? I don't have a lot of control, and a lot of John's world's out of my control. So a lot of that depends. I've got to really make sure I pay attention to that early on. Does that make sense? So finally, and this is one of the pieces that is most important for you to, in a practical way, to master, is that if I neglect learning this lesson about responding to John and arguing with John and feeding John and negotiating with John, if I neglect to learn that lesson, what I end up doing, if I had a video camera kind of following John's life around, what I would find is that when John is giving me what I don't want, I keep investing my energy in it. I keep taking the moments that I don't want, and I'm pouring my intensity there, right? And I'm thinking that if I keep investing in what I don't want, I'm going to get what I do want. It will never work. You'll find that the rule of thumb here is that the more that you invest energy, consistently and repeatedly invest energy in what you don't want just expands. It gets bigger. It grows. And so if I don't like John being disrespectful, and I say, John, don't talk to me that way, and he goes, what way? And I said, that way, and he goes, what way? And I said, that way, I can't stand that. I feed that energy, I throw all that energy into disrespect, thinking I'm going to get respect. It doesn't work that way. And so I encourage you to kind of think of your attention, think of your energy as an invitation to your children. And so anytime you give them attention, anytime you give them energy, it's an invitation to that moment to give you more of that. Now, is it a thought process in their conscious brain? That's what you're asking for? Of course not. That's not it. It's that your attention operates at an unconscious level. It operates at a level that is much more powerful than what your words are, that communicates that you value this moment. In many ways, see, when we keep giving attention to the things that we don't want, out of their world looking up, what we see is that the universe cares about me not listening. The universe cares when I look out the window rather than when my pencil is moving on my math. If there's one universal law that we can say from the research, it'd be this. Whatever you invest in, wherever your attention consistently and repeatedly goes, that behavior, that moment has to grow. So it's like, I use this weeds and seeds metaphor. Most of you have an article that's included there. But this metaphor is really this, that in life you have, in your home, you have weeds, the weeds being talking back, negotiating, disrespect, not listening, bickering, whining, helplessness, complaining, tantrums, drama, drama, drama. All weeds. Seeds, seeds of success, happiness, hard work, effort, kindness, thoughtfulness, responsibility, picking up, helping out, all that good stuff. For most of you, I can project safely, project and predict would be a better word. I can predict the quality of your home life based upon a very simple thing. If I had a video camera of life at home, if more energy is going into weeds than seeds, I know what life is going to look like a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now. If more energy goes into what you don't want, if you keep watering the weeds with your attention, you're going to find that it just keeps growing. So think of yourself, think of your attention as water to either a weed or a seed. You're feeding it one way or the other. And so the most important distinction at the end of the day, at the end of the week, at the end of the year, is to kind of notice, what got more of my attention? Did more of my energy go into the moments I don't want, or did it go into what I do want? Because it's going to be so easy for you to see what unfolds. If you can shift your energy away from the weeds and into the seeds, life changes automatically. You don't have to do a lot of other things. Now, it's nice to understand consequences, how you use consequences, make sure you're modeling healthy behavior. But if I pull away from weeds and start feeding seeds, life will change. It always does. It's the primary tool I use in working with parents. And you'll see in the programs that I have on my website, for example, whether it's a picky eater program or dealing with morning routines or homework habits, any of those programs, you're going to see that I talk about weeds and seeds, because if you ignore this, you can set up systems and charts and reinforcement and